nail friends, welcome or welcome back to my channel. In today's video I'm going to be showing you step by step how to do your polygel application. So I'm going to try to be as detailed as I can. If you're trying to learn how to work with polygel and you're just starting out, I'm going to be showing you two different ways that you could do it. So please continue watching and feel free to do it along with me for funsies. So right now I'm showing you the different polygel brands that I have. I have Makart, Rosalind, Gale Y, Temu or Sheen, I can't remember which one exactly, and then Model Ones as well. So first I would say try to explore different brands. Different brands have different consistencies, so the one you prefer to use will solely depend on the consistency that you like. I personally like mine a little more solid but smooth. There are some brands with a more liquid consistency. Out of the ones I'm showing you, the brand from Temu or Sheen seems to be more liquidy or just very smooth to move around. And Rosalind is my more tougher polygel, so it takes a little more pressure to move it around. I actually started with Rosalind. This brand was the first I tried, and then I just started exploring others. My personal favorite is Makart, which you may or may not be familiar with, and that's okay. All of the polygels can be tricky to squeeze out of the tube, honestly, but specifically with Makart, it's easiest for me to work with. So yes, the first step is choosing your polygel. And I do typically just order all of my polygels from Amazon. However, you can go through like the official websites. You just have to find them, which I can link them below if you guys would find that helpful. Next, you're going to need a slip solution. This is going to be the liquid you use to sculpt your polygel. So again, just showing you what I have. I started using isopropyl alcohol at first, and then I got this Beetle slip solution that actually came with the polygel kit. And then I got this Model 1 slip solution, which also came with the kit. Ideally, if you're starting out and you only have isopropyl alcohol, that is fine. However, usually 70% and up is ideal because it will be much easier to sculpt with. The higher the percentage, the better. So I do have these press-on nails on their stands already because I'm going to use these to show you how to do it. Another thing you'll need is a dapping dish or some container to put the slip solution inside of, or your rubbing alcohol. I do have a couple of them. I'm showing you the basic one that I have. You can get it from Amazon in a pack of 2. Please don't mind the mess. I did previously use this, so there's still solution in it. Moving on, I am using this Model 1 slip solution for this tutorial. It does come with a stopper on it, so I'm just pulling that off and putting a small amount in the dapping dish. I think in order to save and make the most out of your product, using small amounts at a time is good. You'll also want to grab a napkin. I prefer to use Scott Shop towels, however I am out of those currently, but any napkin will work. You'll also need a polygel brush. This is a dual-ended brush, so you have the spatula and then of course the brush on the other end. I personally have never used another kind of brush to sculpt polygel with, so I cannot give any guidance if you're using another kind of brush. I'm using the Makart polygel for this video. There are a couple of ways that you can apply the polygel. You can either apply a line of it down the nail or apply beads at a time, and I'm going to show you both ways. I do prefer to do it beads at a time and placing my biggest bead at the top of the nail. So once that's on there, you're going to dip your brush into your solution. You want your brush covered in solution as much as you can, especially if you're working with this Makart polygel. It's best to have a good amount of solution. And starting at the cuticle area, you're going to pat the polygel to shape around the cuticle area. You also want to get it fairly flat because if you do plan to wear these, we want it to look like it's naturally coming from the nail. So getting it as flat as possible is great, but we also don't want it to be too see-through, so I would definitely be careful. At the cuticle area, I am patting at a 35-degree angle. I feel like it helps trying to go with the shape of the nail, so try to envision that as you're doing it. As you move down the nail, it's almost like you're gently dragging the polygel down. So I'm doing that ever so gently and trying to cover the whole nail. If you run into the problem of not having enough polygel, you can always go back and add more. The first nail I did is actually a prime example of that, so it's not the best example, but it's still the same idea. Another thing that might be helpful is just making sure that you look at the nail from all angles as you go. This will kind of give you an idea of how the nail will look once it's on and give you an idea of whether you need to spread out more or how much you'll have to file off. It'll just kind of give you an idea of that. So as I mentioned, I did have to add a little more onto this nail because I didn't apply enough. Some people will be strategic in where they place their beads. I pretty much place my beads wherever the empty space is, and I just work it around the nail however it needs to go. So I do, in this case, I'm just patting it down, and then I'll kind of turn the nail around and pat it back up the other way. So I just trying to make sure that I get it on there as much as possible. I will say if you can keep it evened out, that would be ideal because once you have to file and stuff, it's going to be a little hard if you have dips in the nail. And so I would highly, highly recommend if you can try to keep it leveled as much as possible, that would be great. Again, if you miss any spaces, you can always go in and add more. That's the beautiful thing about working with polygel and acrylic. If you work with acrylic, you can always go back in and add more. Once you have your polygel applied, you are going to have to cure it. So I have this Beetles UV lamp. This one goes for 60 seconds. Don't mind the dirtiness of it. It's just been through some things. But I simply just put the nail under the lamp and then let it cure. I would recommend curing it for 60 seconds because polygel, it's going to take a little longer to cure than regular gel polish. But once that's done, you can take a alcohol prep pad and just wipe the nail down. This is going to relieve that sticky layer from the nails and you're pretty much done. So that's how you do the application. I am going to do it the same way again. This nail actually turned out way better than the first, so I just want to make sure that you can see the whole thing on a better nail. The first nail that I did have a few holes, I guess air pockets in the nail, so it didn't cure as smoothly, but this one definitely turns out better. So this now kind of overflowed with polygel, and so this would be where you would use your spatula. I'm just taking the spatula and scraping it off of the end. And here I'm just showing you how thin the nail is. I prefer my nails to be thin, and I also don't want to do too much filing after, and so preferably this is how thin I apply my polygel. So now I'm going to show you how to do it when you just apply a line of polygel. So I simply just start from the top of the nail to the end of the nail, and I am going to add a little bit more at the top because I don't want to run out. Again, I don't usually do it this way, but I think as far as like coverage goes, I think people prefer to do it this way. So it's kind of the same idea. I am patting around the cuticle area, and then I'm just patting it down as I move down the nail. So I'm trying to make sure that I cover as much as possible, going from the top of the nail to the end of the nail. If you have a situation where you have just a lot of buildup on your brush, because as you can see, or you may not be able to see really, but as I was doing this, my polygel was kind of building up with the slip solution on my brush, and that is fine, honestly. If you just flip your brush back and forth as you apply, that is okay. It all works the same. However, if you don't like all of the buildup and you want a fresh brush, you can, of course, this is why you have a napkin. You can just take it and just wipe it off on the napkin and then just get more slip solution. Either way is fine. I'm not telling you one way is better than the other. I just have more experience doing it the other way. But I do notice that when I do it this way, it's a little more lumpy. And it's probably because I'm not patting it down as evenly as I should be. So if you do it this way, just try to make sure that you're patting it evenly, because if not, then you will have dips in your nail, and you really don't want that, especially when you have to file afterwards. Okay, so I still think I applied this pretty thinly, which is great. And that is how you apply your polygel. If you found this video helpful, let me know down below in the comments, and feel free to share this with a friend if you think it might help them. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.